In the summer of 2018, a group of mammoth tusk hunters working the walls of an enormous crater in eastern Siberia pulled something out of the frozen ground that stopped them cold. It was a foal. A young horse, barely 2 weeks old when it died, still wearing its skin. Its hooves were intact. Its tail hung limp but whole. The hair on its legs, head, and body had not fallen away. It looked as though it had died months ago, not millennia. Radiocarbon dating placed its death at 42,000 years before the present day. When scientists at the Mammoth Museum in Yakutsk opened the foal's chest cavity, they found something that should not have been possible. Liquid blood, still red, still fluid, pooled inside the vessels of its heart. It was the oldest liquid blood ever extracted from any animal on Earth. That foal is not an anomaly. It is one of dozens of astonishingly preserved creatures now surfacing from the melting permafrost of Siberia. Cave lions with their whiskers still intact. Woolly rhinos with their horns still attached. Wolves with their fur, brains, and tongues preserved in perfect detail. Puppies that look as if they are sleeping. Bears that appear freshly dead. These are not fossils. These are not skeletons. These are complete biological organisms, frozen at the moment of death and held in suspended animation for tens of thousands of years, now being released into the open air as the ground that held them softens and collapses. What is emerging from the Siberian permafrost is rewriting what we know about the Ice Age, raising the possibility of resurrecting species that have been extinct for millennia, and releasing biological material that has not interacted with the living world since before modern humans reached Europe. To understand why these creatures are appearing now, you have to understand what permafrost is and what it does. Permafrost is not simply frozen dirt. It is rock, soil, and sediment that has remained at or below 0 degrees Celsius for at least 2 consecutive years. In Siberia, some of it has been locked in place for 700,000 years. It covers roughly 25% of the entire northern hemisphere's land surface. In Yakutia, the region of northeastern Siberia where most of these discoveries have been made, the permafrost can extend more than a kilometer deep. What makes permafrost such an extraordinary preservative is not just the cold, it is the total absence of oxygen. Once an animal's body is sealed inside this frozen matrix, the bacteria and fungi that would normally decompose it cannot function. There is no air, no moisture cycling, no biological activity of any kind. Decay effectively stops. The body enters a state of preservation so complete that soft tissue, hair, muscle, and internal organs can survive intact for tens of thousands of years. This is why the foal's blood was still liquid. This is why the cave lion cubs still had facial expressions. This is why a 4,000-year-old bird found in a Norwegian ice patch still had bright feathers and intact organs. The permafrost does not merely slow decay, it suspends it entirely. But the permafrost is no longer holding. Arctic temperatures are rising 2 to 4 times faster than the global average. In Siberia, summer temperatures have been breaking records for years. The top layer of permafrost, the active layer that freezes and thaws seasonally, is reaching deeper each year. Below it, Ancient permafrost that has been stable for hundreds of thousands of years is beginning to soften. When it does, the ground collapses. Riverbanks crumble, coastal bluffs shear away, craters open in the tundra as underground ice melts and the earth above it gives way. And from these freshly exposed surfaces, things begin to emerge. The discoveries have been accelerating for 2 decades, each one more startling than the last. In 2007, Nenets reindeer herders on the Yamal Peninsula stumbled across the body of a baby woolly mammoth, so well preserved that her skin was still pliable and her eyelashes were still visible. She was approximately 40,000 years old. Scientists named her Luba. In 2011, members of the Yukagia tribe found the body of a steppe bison on the shore of a muddy Siberian lake. It had likely starved to death 9,000 years ago. Its heart was complete enough to undergo a computed tomography scan. Its brain was intact. In 2015, 2 cave lion cubs were recovered from the permafrost in Yakutia. They were given the names Uyan and Dina. Their fur, claws, and whiskers had survived more than 12,000 years underground. Scientists described the preservation as sensational. Then came Sparta. Discovered in 2017 by mammoth tusk collectors in the Siberian Arctic, Sparta is a cave lion cub dating back approximately 28,000 years. Her fur is intact. Her facial features are preserved in such detail that she appears to be sleeping. Scientists have called her the best preserved Ice Age animal ever found. A second cub, nicknamed Boris, was recovered nearby and dated to more than 44,000 years ago. In 2019, mammoth hunters working the banks of the Terektiakh River in Yakutia found something staring back at them from the frozen earth. It was the severed head of a Pleistocene wolf, roughly 40,000 years old, with its fur, brain, tongue, and soft tissue still intact. Its size was roughly 25% larger than any modern wolf, suggesting it belonged to a subspecies that went extinct at the end of the last ice age. In 2020, reindeer herders on Bolshoi-Lyakovsky Island found the body of a bear, initially believed to be a cave bear, but later identified as an ancient brown bear approximately 3,500 years old. Its nose was intact. All internal organs were present. Scientists called it the first and only find of its kind. That same year, on the banks of the same Terektiakh River, a juvenile woolly rhinoceros emerged from the permafrost. It was 3 to 4 years old when it died, likely by drowning. Most of its soft tissue remained, including part of its intestines, thick hair, and a lump of fat. Its nasal horn was found lying beside it. Scientists estimated it had been frozen for 20 to 50,000 years. Each discovery arrives in the same way. The ground softens. A riverbank collapses. A tusk hunter, a herder, or a local resident spots something unusual in the exposed earth. And the race begins, because the same process that reveals these creatures also begins to destroy them. Once exposed to air, sunlight, and warmth, soft tissue begins to decompose rapidly. What survived 40,000 years underground can be lost in a matter of days. But the creatures emerging from the permafrost are only part of what the melting ground is releasing. In 2014, a French virologist named Jean-Michel Claverie and his team extracted a sample from 30,000-year-old Siberian permafrost and attempted something that sounds like science fiction. They tried to revive whatever viruses might still be alive inside it. It worked. The virus they isolated, which they named Pithovirus sibericum, was still infectious after 30 millennia in the ice. For safety, the team had deliberately chosen to target only viruses capable of infecting single-celled amoebas, organisms with no connection to human biology. But the principle it demonstrated was profound. Viral particles could survive inside permafrost for tens of thousands of years and emerge fully capable of infecting a host. Claverie repeated the experiment in 2015, isolating a second virus family from the same sample. In 2023, his team published results from a much larger study reporting the revival of 13 previously unknown viruses from 7 different permafrost samples collected across Siberia. 3 of them were found inside a clump of 27,000-year-old petrified mammoth wool. Another was extracted from the frozen intestines of an ancient Siberian wolf. The oldest of the revived viruses, named Pandoravirus yodoma, had been frozen for approximately 48,500 years. It is the most ancient virus ever brought back to an infectious state. Claverie has been careful to study only viruses that infect amoebas, precisely because they pose no danger to humans or animals. But his team has been explicit about the implications. If amoeba viruses can survive this long and remain infectious, there is no biological reason why viruses that target mammals, plants, or humans could not do the same. The concern is not theoretical. In 2016, an anthrax outbreak in Siberia infected dozens of people and killed a 12-year-old boy. Investigators traced the source to an unusually hot summer that thawed the permafrost deep enough to expose the carcass of a reindeer that had died of anthrax in 1941. The spores remained viable for 75 years. Genetic material from the 1918 influenza virus has been recovered from a body buried in Alaskan permafrost. Smallpox DNA has been identified in a 300-year-old Siberian mummy. The permafrost is not just a freezer preserving ancient animals. It is a biological archive containing viruses, bacteria, and organic material that have not interacted with the living world in tens of thousands of years. As that archive thaws, its contents are being released into an environment that has no existing immunity to whatever it might contain. And then there is the question that hovers over every discovery. Can any of these creatures be brought back? The foal from the Batagaika crater became the focus of an international cloning effort almost immediately after its discovery. Researchers from Russia's Northeastern Federal University and South Korea's Suwon Biotech Research Foundation began extracting cells from its muscle tissue and internal organs, hoping to find viable genetic material that could be used to clone the extinct Lena horse. The liquid blood, despite its extraordinary preservation, was not useful for this purpose. Red blood cells do not contain nuclei, and therefore carry no DNA. The team focused instead on muscle cells, where DNA might survive in better condition. Over the course of months, they made more than 20 attempts to grow living cells from the foal tissue. All of them failed. DNA degrades over time, even in permafrost. The cold slows the process dramatically, but it does not stop it. After tens of thousands of years, the long molecular chains that carry genetic information are fragmented, broken into pieces too short and too damaged to drive cell division. The preservation of soft tissue, no matter how remarkable it appears to the eye, does not guarantee the preservation of functional DNA. But the ambition has not gone away. The same researchers are working toward cloning a woolly mammoth, using the genetic material recovered from permafrost specimens as the foundation. Other teams around the world are pursuing similar goals, using gene editing technologies to insert mammoth DNA sequences into the genome of modern Asian elephants, the mammoth's closest living relative. The foal tissue, even if it cannot be cloned directly, provides data that feeds into these larger efforts. Whether de-extinction is scientifically achievable, ethically justified, or ecologically meaningful remains a subject of intense debate. But the raw material for the attempt, the biological tissue of animals that have been dead for 40,000 years, is now surfacing from the Siberian ground at a pace that no one anticipated even a decade ago. The permafrost covers vast stretches of Siberia, Alaska, Canada, and Scandinavia. It has been stable for hundreds of thousands of years, and it is now thawing at a rate that scientists describe as irreversible on any human timescale. Every summer, new discoveries emerge. Every collapse of a riverbank, every widening of a crater, every unusually warm season reveals material that has been sealed underground since before the invention of agriculture, before the construction of the pyramids, before the first cities were built anywhere on Earth. The creatures surfacing from the permafrost are not relics in the traditional sense. They are not bones or impressions left in stone. They are biological time capsules, complete organisms carrying tissue, DNA, and in some cases, the infectious agents that once circulated through Ice Age ecosystems. Each one is a window into a world that ended tens of thousands of years ago, opened briefly by the warmth of a changing climate before decay closes it again. What we choose to do with that window, how quickly we recover what is being exposed, how carefully we study it, and how seriously we take the biological risks it carries, will determine whether these discoveries become a transformative chapter in the study of life on Earth, or a fleeting glimpse of something we were too slow to save. The ground is opening, the creatures are emerging, and the clock, as always, is running. Thanks for watching. If this is the kind of exploration you want to follow, subscribe. There is much more to come.